The night was quiet across the Galactic Empire's border outpost. Star Station Helios 4 floated in deep space like a metal island surrounded by thousands of glittering stars. Inside the station, everything seemed calm. Officers spoke softly, screens blinked gently, and nothing unusual appeared on the scanners. Then, at 2:11 Standard Time, everything changed. A young scan officer named Relos frowned at his screen. The numbers on his display were shifting in strange ways, too fast, too irregular, too unnatural. At first he thought it was a simple malfunction, but when he reset the system, the readings jumped even higher. "Commander, you might want to look at this," Relos said, his voice trembling. Commander Vecnor Tal stepped forward, annoyed at being disturbed. But as soon as he saw the data, annoyance turned to confusion and then to fear. There was an object, a huge one, entering the galaxy's outer border. "Is it an asteroid?" Vecnor asked. "No, sir," Relos replied. "It has energy signatures and a shield pattern." The commander's eyes widened. A shield that strong could belong only to a military vessel. But the size made no sense. The object was larger than any known warship, larger than a dreadnought, larger even than the Empire's mobile star fortresses. Officers around the room began shouting updates. "Unknown colossal object inbound. Size increasing, new estimate, catastrophic scale, energy levels rising, no match in database." "Sir, this thing is rewriting our classification system." The entire command center filled with noise and flashing lights as warnings echoed from every monitor. Vecnor grabbed the railing beside him to steady himself. "What species could build something like this?" he whispered. Another officer shouted, "Object slowing down! It's stabilizing!" Vecnor stared at the main screen. Slowly, the dark object came into view. It had no simple shape, no straight lines, no smooth design. Instead, it looked like a giant armored triangle, layered with glowing orange lines and deep metallic ridges. It wasn't just big, it was terrifyingly advanced. "Is it a rogue AI craft?" someone asked. "Is it a new enemy?" another shouted. Relos swallowed hard. "Sir, we're receiving an identity signature." The room went silent. Everyone leaned closer. The identification system blinked once, twice, then displayed the answer in large, bright letters. Signal origin, humanity. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the machines seemed to stop humming for a moment. Commander Vecnor felt the air leaving his lungs. "Humans? No, that's impossible." Humans were known in the Empire as a minor species. Their ships were slow, weak, and decades behind Imperial technology. Their budget was tiny, their systems were small, their tech was crude, they had no power, they had no influence, they had no advanced weapons. So how could they build this? How can a human ship be this size? One officer said in a whisper, "It must be fake, it must be stolen tech, it has to be a mistake. Humans cannot make this." But the identification system never lied. The massive warship outside belonged to humanity. As the object moved closer, its details became clearer. Its hull shimmered with glowing circuits. Strange engines pulsed with unknown energy. A soft humming vibration spread through the station, as if the ship itself was breathing. The officers felt something new, a cold pressure in their chests. "Fear. Commander, what are your orders?" Relos asked. Vecnor swallowed. "Alert the High Council. Send every nearby fleet into defensive formation. And do not provoke it." The object kept approaching, slow, steady, unstoppable. Every few seconds, its energy signature grew stronger. "It's scanning the sector." An officer said, "Is it preparing weapons?" Another asked. "No, I don't see anything like weapons," Relos replied. "But whatever it is doing, its power is beyond anything we understand." The warship finally stopped at the Empire's border, hanging in empty space like a giant shadow. Then, without warning, all lights in the command center flickered. The screens glitched. Static filled the air. The officers grabbed their consoles as the entire station shook lightly. "Are we under attack?" Someone shouted. "No. No impact detected. No weapons fired." A soft electronic hum filled the room. Suddenly, every screen cleared and a message appeared. A simple message, glowing bright blue. "We are here." The room froze. "Is that a threat? A greeting? A warning?" Vecnor stared at the message. It was so simple, yet so heavy. Humans had never created something that could make the Empire feel helpless. But now, One human ship had made an entire galactic nation panic. Relos whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" Vecnor exhaled slowly. "We wait." His voice shook, not from anger, but from fear. Across the galaxy, more outposts reported the same impossible readings. Fleets scrambled, diplomats panicked, scientists argued. The Empire, for the first time in its long history, had no answers. And out there, silent and bright like a rising star, humanity's impossible warship waited too, not moving, not speaking further, simply watching, listening. Every Imperial officer understood one truth: the galaxy had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The news of the massive human warship spread through the Galactic Empire like wildfire. Within minutes, every military channel was alive with warnings. Every commander, every officer, every station knew the same terrifying fact. A human ship had arrived, and it was bigger and stronger than anything in the Empire. High Command immediately ordered a fleet to intercept it. They wanted answers. They wanted control. But most of all, they wanted to hide their fear. Admiral Syrox, an old and proud leader of the Imperial Navy, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Fang. Around him, officers worked quickly, trying to mask their shaking hands. "All ships, form a defensive wall," Syrox commanded. "We will stop this thing before it enters Imperial space." His voice was firm, but his heart pounded inside his chest. Through the large viewing window, the giant human warship hovered in the distance like a dark mountain floating in the stars. Its lights pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Its metal surface glimmered with strange energy trails that looked nothing like any known technology. Syrox narrowed his eyes. "Humans should not be able to build something like this. Distance to target?" he asked. 70,000 kilometers and closing, the navigation officer replied. "Any signs of weapon activity?" Syrox asked. "No, Admiral. It appears passive, yet terrifying." The Imperial fleet moved closer, their engines glowing as the formation tightened. Dozens of ships, destroyers, cruisers, heavy carriers, took battle positions. But the closer they came, the stranger things became. The first warning came from the ship closest to the human vessel, the destroyer Solar Edge. "Admiral," an officer shouted, "we're getting emergency signals from the Solar Edge." "Put it on screen," Syrox ordered. The view shifted to a panicked captain screaming over static. "Our engines, losing power, shields failing, weapons unresponsive." Before Syrox could react, another officer shouted, "Admiral, the Crimson Pike just lost all propulsion." Then another report, and another, and another. One by one, the Imperial ships began shutting down. Engines flickered, shields dropped, weapon systems powered off. Navigation froze, and none of it made sense. "Is it an attack?" Syrox demanded. The science officer shook his head rapidly. "No, sir, there is no damage at all. Their systems are intact. They are just off, Syrox repeated. "What do you mean, off?" "It's like a giant force is disabling them, turning them off the way a parent switches off a child's toy." A cold chill ran down Syrox's spine. The human warship had not fired a single shot, had not shown any aggression, had not even moved, and yet the Empire's strongest fleet was becoming useless. The bridge lights flickered once, just once, and every officer froze. "Admiral," the engineering officer whispered, "our own power levels are dropping." Syrox gripped the railing. "Stabilize them. We're trying, sir. It's not working." In the next moment, the Eternal Fang shields collapsed. The lights dimmed. Several consoles died. Syrox felt the fear he had been trying to suppress rise inside him. The entire Imperial fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable dominance, was now floating helplessly like drifting metal carcasses, every ship except one. The human warship continued to glow softly, untouched, peaceful, and terrifying. "Admiral," the sensor officer whispered, "that ship is not attacking us." "Then what is it doing?" Syrox hissed. "It's simply existing." Those words felt worse than any battle cry. If humanity could do this simply by existing, what would happen if they chose to attack? Syrox looked around the bridge. His officers were pale, trembling, unable to understand what was happening. "This cannot be human technology," one officer whispered. "Humans were supposed to be behind us," another added. "They were supposed to be weak," someone else said. "But now, The truth was clear. Humans had not only advanced, they had surpassed every major species in the galaxy. A sudden tone filled the bridge, a soft, calm sound T. Hat felt completely out of place. "Admiral, incoming message," the communications officer said, barely able to speak. "From where?" Syrox asked, though he already knew the answer. The officer swallowed. "The human ship." Syrox's breath caught. "Put it through." The lights steadied. The static cleared. And a voice, calm, steady, confident, echoed through the eternal fang. "Imperial fleet, please remain calm. You are not in danger." Every officer stared at the speakers in disbelief. The voice sounded human, but powerful, certain, almost regal. "Your ships are disabled for safety. No damage has been done. We do not seek conflict." Syrox clenched his jaw. How did they disable an entire fleet? How was that even possible? No one had the answer. The voice continued, "We come with purpose, not war." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Syrox finally spoke, but his voice was no longer strong. What do humans want?" The navigation officer replied softly, "Sir, humans may not want anything from us." Syrox turned sharply. "Then why show this power?" The officer looked at the massive warship on the screen, a glowing giant that seemed to breathe in the darkness. "Maybe, Admiral, they are warning us?" Syrox stared at the human ship, its lights blinking slowly. A single thought entered his mind. If this is only the beginning, what have humans become? And for the first time in his long military career, Admiral Syrox felt small, very small. The command center of the Galactic Empire was filled with fear and confusion. Alarms had finally stopped ringing, but the officers inside were still shaking. The giant human warship, the one that had disabled the entire Imperial fleet without firing a single shot, hovered silently on the main screen like a sleeping titan. Commander Vecnor Tal stood stiffly at the center of the room. His eyes were locked on the giant cell. It glowed slowly with deep orange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. The ship looked ancient and futuristic at the same time, as if it carried secrets older than the Empire itself. "How can humans build something like this?" Vecnor whispered. No officer dared to answer. Then, without warning, all screens flickered. Every light in the command center dimmed and brightened. A cold blue shimmer filled the room. "Commander," Relos, the scan officer, shouted, "something is entering our system." The air vibrated gently. A hologram suddenly formed in the center of the command room. It started as a glowing outline, then sharpened into the figure of a man, a human, tall, calm, wearing a dark uniform with a bright silver emblem shaped like a rising sun. Gasps echoed through the command center. The human hologram looked around the room with steady eyes. He was not afraid. He was not nervous. He did not bow or show weakness. Instead, he carried himself like someone who knew exactly how powerful his people had become. Finally, he spoke. "Greetings. I am Ambassador Orion Hale, representative of humanity." His voice was smooth, firm, and carried quiet power. Vecnor stepped forward cautiously. "How did you access our secure systems?" Orion gave a small, polite smile. "Your systems are not secure from us anymore." A wave of shock passed through the Empire's officers. Many felt humiliation. Many felt fear. Orion continued, "We are not your enemies. We did not disable your ships to show dominance, but for safety. If our warship had not acted, your fleet might have attacked us out of fear. We simply prevented disaster." Vecnor forced his voice to remain steady. "What is that ship outside? What have humans built?" At his question, Orion raised his hand. The hologram behind him shifted, expanding into a detailed, rotating image of the massive warship outside, now shown in perfect CLA. "Riddy. This," Orion said, "is the Aegis of Dawn." The name echoed in the room like thunder. He continued, "It is humanity's first deep-core warship, powered by a new form of energy we discovered 10 years ago." The Empire's science officer stepped closer to the hologram. His voice shook. "Deep core, but that technology is impossible. No known species can create stable energy at that scale." Orion looked at him calmly. "That is true. Until now." The holographic ship glowed brighter. Blue-white energy pulsed through its internal conduits like living veins. Orion explained, 10 years ago, humanity discovered a new type of energy, buried beneath the surface of one of our moons, an energy source that breaks the rules of physics. It does not decay. It does not weaken. It grows. The command center fell into stunned silence. Grows? Vecnor repeated. Energy does not grow. Yours does not, Orion replied gently. Ours does. The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity had unlocked something the Empire couldn't even imagine. The science officer whispered. So that is how you powered a ship that size. Orion nodded. We spent a decade building the Aegis of Dawn. Every nation, every station, every scientist on Earth worked together. We put aside our differences. We united under one purpose. One officer muttered, humans united? That alone is impossible. Orion chuckled softly. It is rare, but we managed. The hologram zoomed into the ship's core, a glowing sphere of swirling energy brighter than any star. This core, Orion said, can power an entire fleet by itself. It can bend energy fields. It can manipulate space. And it can protect humanity from threats we cannot face alone. Vecnor frowned. Threats? Are you saying this ship is a defense project? A shadow passed over Orion's face. Partly, the officers exchanged worried looks. Orion continued, the Aegis of Dawn was not built to challenge the Empire. We did not build it to conquer. We built it because something is coming. Silence returned, heavy, tense, chilling. Something? Vecnor asked quietly. What exactly? Orion shook his head. Not yet. I cannot reveal everything now. But the galaxy is in danger, and humanity chose to prepare instead of begging others for help. This statement hit the room hard. For decades, the Empire had ignored human warnings and dismissed human research. Now the consequences stood in front of them in the form of a warship capable of shutting down fleets. The Empire realized the truth. Humanity had outgrown them. One officer asked, if you didn't come to start war, why reveal your power now? Orion studied the room with calm eyes. Because your fleets reacted with fear. Because you aimed weapons at us. Because if we remained hidden, misunderstandings would grow. He paused. We came to talk. To show our strength. Not to threaten, but to prove we are not helpless anymore. Another officer whispered, what do humans want from us? Orion answered in a single sentence, respect, cooperation, and truth. He let those words settle before adding, the galaxy is changing. We must change with it. The hologram slowly began to fade. Before disappearing, Orion gave one last message. Do not fear humanity. Fear what is coming. And understand, we stand ready. The hologram vanished. Lights returned to normal. The command center remained frozen in stunned silence. Commander Vecnor looked at the Aegis of Dawn on the screen, shining like a sunrise in the dark. Humans, the species the Empire once mocked, had become something far greater, something powerful, something dangerous, something necessary, and for the first time in history, the Empire realized they might need humanity to survive. The Galactic Empire had survived countless wars, rebellions, and crises. But nothing had prepared it for this. The arrival of humanity's impossible warship, the Aegis of Dawn, had broken the Empire's confidence like glass. Now, instead of unity, chaos spread through the highest levels of leadership. Inside the Imperial High Council chamber, tension weighed heavier than the air itself. The long oval table was surrounded by powerful leaders, military chiefs, scientists, governors, and political masters. Usually their voices were loud and proud. Today they were full of fear. High Counselor Varix, a tall figure with cold eyes, slammed his hand on the table. We must face the truth. Humans have surpassed us. Their technology is beyond anything we know. One ship, one single ship, disabled our entire fleet, murmurs erupted around the room. General Rorka, the head of the Imperial Navy, stood with a scowl. He was known for his temper, and today it was worse than ever. We cannot simply stand here and tremble, he shouted. Humanity must be planning something. No species invests everything into one warship unless they want domination. Talera, the intelligence officer, shook her head slowly. General, they could have destroyed us already. They did not. That means nothing, Rorka snapped. Maybe they are waiting. Maybe they want the Empire to kneel first. Varix raised a hand, trying to restore calm. Enough. We need information, not wild fear. But fear already filled the room. Around the chamber, holographic screens displayed news from across the galaxy. Markets were crashing as worlds worried about a human uprising. Alien governments were calling emergency meetings. Some were fleeing, some were arming themselves. No one understood humanity's intentions, and the unknown was more terrifying than any weapon. The screen closest to Varix showed the Aegis of Dawn drifting silently at the border. It looked peaceful but powerful, like a slumbering beast cap, able of shaking the stars. If the humans truly come in peace, Varric said slowly, why bring such a terrifying warship? Why show overwhelming power? Talara replied, because they said something is coming. Something we don't understand, Rorka scoffed. A story to scare children. Humans are manipulating us. No, Talara said firmly. I studied their ambassador. He spoke honestly. And their ship's energy readings, they're not from any known technology. If humans had wanted war, she paused, our empire would no longer exist. The room fell into heavy silence. Everyone knew she was right. Still, fear drove angry voices. Governor Rennell, an older council member, raised his trembling hands. We must prepare defenses, build new fleets, increase our borders. Humanity cannot be trusted. They hid their progress for years. Another governor added, if they built one ship, they can build more. A fleet of these warships could destroy every empire world. General Rorka nodded. We must strike first. Destroy the Aegis of Dawn before humanity becomes unstoppable. Strike first? Talara repeated, shocked. General, we cannot even power our weapons near that ship. You saw what it did. Rorka gritted his teeth. Then we must find a weakness. Every weapon has one. Varric sighed deeply. The problem is not the ship. The problem is our understanding. Humanity has advanced in ways we cannot grasp. Their technology is not just ahead, it is alien to us. A younger council member whispered, what if humanity is the galaxy's only hope? What if their warning is real? Everyone turned to him. It was rare for junior members to speak. The ambassador said something dangerous is coming, the young man continued. What if humanity built the Aegis of Dawn not to conquer, but to survive, and maybe even protect others? Some council members nodded slowly. The idea seemed crazy, yet possible. Rorka Sko fed loudly. Protect others, humans? They are selfish, divided, chaotic. They were, Talara interrupted. But they united to build that ship. That alone is something we never expected. Varix closed his eyes for a moment. He was the oldest in the room, and he had lived through many conflicts, but he had never seen the Empire so helpless. Humans, a once ignored species, had turned the galaxy upside down. What do we do? Asked Governor Rennell softly. War or peace? Before Varix could answer, an alarm blared throughout the chamber. Red lights flashed. Officers rushed in, breathless. Counselors, one shouted. We have a new development. Varix stood quickly. What happened? Something terrible, the officer said, voice shaking. Across 3 star systems, our outer sensors just went dark. Talara quickly accessed the data panel. Her face turned pale. This is impossible, she whispered. Sensors cannot all fail at once. They didn't fail, the officer said. They were destroyed. A cold silence gripped the room. Varix leaned forward. Destroyed by what? The officer swallowed. We don't know. But the signatures were not human. Rorka's face twisted. You see, humanity warned us of a threat, so we would lower our guard. Talara cut him off sharply. General, the destruction does not match human technology. This is something else. Holographic screens showed empty sensor grids, flashing red sectors and broken communication routes. Something was out there. Something powerful enough to wipe out entire sensor networks in seconds. Something not human. Finally, Varric spoke with a trembling voice. Prepare an emergency message to Earth. Inform humanity. We believe their warning. No one protested. The Empire had spent the entire day fearing humans. But now, for the first time, they feared something else. Varix looked at the hologram of the Aegis of Dawn one more time. Maybe humans did not come to scare us, he whispered. Maybe they came to save us. And in that moment, the Empire understood something very important. Humanity was no longer the enemy. Humanity was the only chance the galaxy had left. The Galactic Empire's fleets had surrounded the human warship, but none of the commanders felt safe. The Aegis of Dawn floated calmly among them like a quiet giant, glowing with soft blue and orange light. It did not move. It did not speak. It simply existed, and its presence alone felt overwhelming. Inside the bridge of the Imperial destroyer blazed Talon. Captain Hyrak paced angrily. His face was red with rage, and his fists trembled with frustration. He had always believed humans were weak. He believed the Empire was the rightful ruler of the galaxy, and the idea that a human ship could disable Imperial vessels made him furious. "We are the Empire," Hyrak shouted. "We will not bow to a primitive species. Charge the plasma cannons." His officers looked terrified. "Captain," the tactical officer said softly, "High Command warned all ships not to attack. They said the human ship must not be provoked." "I do not care what High Command says," Hyrak roared. "Humans must learn their place. If we destroy this ship, the rest of the galaxy will know the Empire still controls the stars. Charge the cannons." Reluctantly, the officers obeyed. The ship shook as energy built up inside the weapon cores. Red light flooded the bridge. Nearby, Imperial ships watched in shock. Commander Vecnor, aboard the flagship Eternal Fang, shouted into the comms, "Captain Hyrak, stand down! You will doom us all!" But Hyrak laughed bitterly. If humans survive this, then maybe they deserve the galaxy. His pride was louder than reason. The plasma cannons reached full charge. The ship shook violently under the strain. Hyrak raised his hand. Fire. A massive wave. Of bright, burning plasma shot through space. Every Imperial ship watched in horror as the attack raced toward the Aegis of Dawn like a tidal wave of fire. The plasma struck the human warship, and then something impossible happened. The blast didn't explode. It didn't leave a scorch mark. It didn't even push the ship backward. The plasma simply disappeared. It hit the Aegis of Dawn and dissolved instantly, like snowflakes melting on a hot surface. Hyrak's proud smile vanished. His officers stared in shock. What happened?" one whispered. Another officer checked the readings. "Captain, the plasma was absorbed. Every particle. The ship didn't even need shields." Hyrak stepped backward, fear replacing his anger. That cannot be." But the truth was clear. The Empire's strongest weapon meant nothing to the Aegis of Dawn. Suddenly, the human ship responded, not with guns, not with missiles, not with destruction. A gentle blue ripple spread outward from the hull. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful, as it expanded through space like a wave of calm light. Commander Vecnor saw it coming and shouted, "Brace for impact," but the wave didn't damage anything. Instead, the moment it touched the Imperial ships, everything shut down, every engine, every shield, every weapon, every navigation system, every communication link. Lights flickered out across hundreds of ships. The mighty Imperial fleet, the pride of the galaxy, was now helpless. "Sir!" one of Vecnor's officers yelled. "We've lost all power. All systems are offline." "Try restarting," Vecnor ordered. "We can't. The ship isn't responding." Across space, commanders screamed in fear. "We're dead in space. We can't move. Our weapons won't power up. We can't even aim our scanners." Never in Imperial history had an entire fleet been disabled without a single shot fired. On the bridge of the Aegis of D. Ambassador Orion Hale watched the chaos quietly. His crew looked to him for guidance. "Should we defend ourselves, sir?" one asked. Orion shook his head gently. "There is no need. We are not here to fight." He pressed a control panel, sending a broadcast to all Imperial ships. His voice echoed through every powerless vessel. "Please stop attacking. We do not wish for war." The message repeated softly. "Your ships are safe. No harm has been done." In the blazed Talon, Captain Hyrak fell to his knees. His pride was shattered. His reckless attack had proven one thing: the Empire was completely powerless against this human creation. On the flagship, Vecnor listened closely as Orion continued. "We disabled your systems only to prevent damage. The Aegis of Dawn does not want destruction. We are here with a warning, a warning." The officers exchanged nervous glances. What could be more frightening than the power they had just witnessed? Orion's voice softened. "Something is coming. Something the galaxy is not ready for. Humanity built this ship to survive it, and to help others survive as well." The Imperial ships remained silent and dark, listening. Orion finished the message with a calm certainty. "We seek cooperation, not conflict. But we cannot let fear cause unnecessary war. When you are ready to talk, we will be here. Slowly, softly, the blue energy wave faded. Systems across the Imperial fleet began rebooting. Lights turned on, engines restarted, weapons reactivated. But no one touched the controls. No one dared, because now the Empire understood something painfully clear. This single human ship could crush them at any moment. Humans had become a power beyond measure, a power the Empire could no longer ignore. Commander Vecnor exhaled shakily. Humans, what have you become? For the first time in galactic history, the Empire feared humanity, and at the they knew humanity might be their only hope. For the first time in its long and powerful history, the Galactic Empire waited in silence. No ships moved, no orders were shouted, no one dared to speak above a whisper. Every eye across the Empire, every commander, every soldier, every leader was focused on the giant human warship, the Aegis of Dawn. The Empire had seen its fleets disabled. They had seen their weapons fail. They had watched humans display a level of power that defied every known law of science. But nothing had prepared them for what came next. Inside the Imperial High Council chamber, the tension was like a storm trapped in a small room. High Counselor Varric stood stiffly at the center, gripping the table with shaking hands. Around him sat generals, scientists, governors, and intelligence chiefs. All waited for the human ambassador, Orion Hale, to speak again. Then, without warning, the room dimmed. The air shimmered, a hologram formed. Orion Hale appeared in the center of the chamber, calm, steady, and serious. Varric swallowed, his voice almost cracking. Ambassador Hale, please explain what humanity truly wants. Orion nodded once. I will. But you must listen without pride, without fear, and without denial. The room fell completely silent. Even the machines hummed more quietly. Orion lifted his hand, and the hologram behind him shifted. A giant black shape appeared. Not a ship, not a planet. Something else entirely. Something shifting, twisting, constantly changing shape, like living darkness. This, Orion said, is why humanity built the Aegis of Dawn. Several counselors gasped. Others recoiled in fear. This is not a species, Orion continued. It is not a fleet. It is not even a living creature in the normal sense. It is a cosmic force that consumes everything in its path. We call it the Void Swarm. A thick wave of fear rolled through the chamber. The hologram showed stars vanishing, planets tearing apart, entire solar systems swallowed in darkness. Varric's voice trembled. What does it want? It does not want, Orion replied. It only destroys. The counselors exchanged terrified looks. General Rorca, usually proud and loud, whispered, How do you know this is real? Orion's expression grew heavy. Because humanity has been watching it for years. We detected the first signs 15 years ago, 3 galaxies away. We found systems that should have been full of life, completely empty, silent. His voice lowered. We found their remains? A scientist asked shakily, Why did humanity never warn us? Orion's eyes hardened. We did. You ignored us. Called our reports impossible. Dismissed our scientists as dreamers. So humanity realized something. He paused. If we were to survive, we would have to save ourselves. The word struck the room like a hammer. Humanity, once considered weak, ignored, and unimportant, had faced the truth alone, Talera, the intelligence officer, whispered. So, you united your entire species to prepare for this? Yes, Orion said. Every nation, every colony, every scientist. We poured everything into one goal, build a ship strong enough to face the darkness coming for all of us. The hologram shifted to show the Aegis of Dawn again, glowing like a small star in the void. The Aegis of Dawn is not a weapon of conquest, Orion said. It is a shield, a beacon, a line humanity refuses to let the darkness cross. Varric stared at the image, stunned. And you revealed it to us now because... Orion folded his hands behind his back. Because the Void Swarm's outer tendrils have entered your space. Gasps filled the room. Varric leaned forward urgently. Our sensors only went offline. No, Orion said. Your sensors were destroyed. The Void Swarm has already touched the edge of your Ga. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. General Rorke finally spoke, voice shaking for the first time in his life. "Can the Aegis of Dawn stop it?" Orion nodded slowly. "One Aegis can hold back a small portion, but the swarm is vast. We will need more ships, more unity, more cooperation, and we have little time." Talera took a breath. "So humanity has not come to conquer us." "No," Orion said softly. "We came to warn you, to stand with you, to give the galaxy a chance to survive." He looked at every council member one by one. "We offer alliance. If we stand together, we may survive. If we stay divided, we fall." The words carried more weight than any threat ever could. Varix felt something heavy in his chest, not fear but shame. The Empire had treated humans as lesser beings for centuries, ignored them, mocked them, taxed them, controlled them, but now humanity was offering help instead of revenge. "What would you have us do?" Varix asked quietly. Orion smiled, not with pride, but with hope. "Prepare your fleets, share your knowledge, coordinate strategies. Let us combine our strengths. Humanity has the technology, you have the numbers. Together, we may stand a chance." After a long moment, Varix nodded. "Then we accept." A wave of relief spread across the chamber. Orion bowed his head. "Then we begin today." The hologram faded, leaving the Empire leaders staring at empty air. But none of them felt empty. They felt something powerful, something rare, hope. Outside, through the giant viewports, the Aegis of Dawn floated calmly. Its lights glowed like dawn breaking after a long night. For the first time, the Empire did not see it as a threat. They saw it as salvation. For the first time in galactic history, humanity stood tall. The Empire stood humbled, and together, they stood on the edge of a war against the darkness. The story of fear had become a story of unity, and the galaxy would never be the same again.